Mufasa knows is my journey. It's my truth. It's my perspective on the lessons that this world has graciously taught me. And blessings, my beautiful people. Happy Monday. I personally am a huge fan of Mondays. I think that it's always a great time to be able to start fresh, start a new week, make some things happen. It's pretty not my favorite day of the week, but it definitely is a great energy for me. So I just got done watching this week's episode of Insecure, and it made me want to make a video. And also AfroPunk just happened this weekend, which I did not attend, and I'll talk about that why in a second. Um, and so, yeah, I had a couple of thoughts about Black people and their creative integrity. And so I think that we as Black people are probably the most expressive group of people. We have such influence. We have such great energy. We are very colorful. We're vibrant. Like we're the people that everyone wants to have at the party. You know, like our music is the music people want to hear. Our art, our fashion, like we set this tone for literally everything. Our food, our literally there's nothing that Black people did not start and do not continue to sort of dictate the direction of. And so with a lot of things that I personally choose to spend money on, choose to participate in, I do it to specifically support Black people because although we are the greatest influencers of a lot of industries, pretty much all industries, we don't really get the credit for that. Therefore, we're not really getting the money for it. And so there are a lot of people who are profiting from our culture without really even giving a shit about the culture in the first place. They just see the value in it and see the dollar signs. It's as simple as that. You know, they don't really necessarily have to, you know, as a business person, you don't necessarily have to care about the person making the product. You just have to you don't even have to care about the product. Really, you just have to care about the marketing strategy to get the money for the product. And so I have found lately that a lot of Black businesses that I have specifically wanted to support or even events aren't necessarily owned by Black people. So the first time that it happened was back earlier in the summer. I went to one of my empresses, Chef Little Bit is from Queens, and it was Sam's birthday. So I was like, oh, let me take her out for brunch or whatever. So we went. She's a chef. She loves food. And so I was like, oh, well, let's go to one of the best, most famous Black-owned restaurants in Harlem, Amy Ruth's. We go to Amy Ruth's. And then come to find out, Amy Ruth's is no longer Black-owned. It's like literally owned by some Jews who bought up the block because Amy Ruth's was in some financial trouble, and they bought them out because they had already bought out the rest of the block. And so a lot of people don't know that. It's not something that's talked about because at the end of the day, it would ruin the brand of Amy Ruth's, you know, and that's something that, you know, it bothers me because I'm like, well, I came here specifically to support Black business, not the brand of a Black business, you know? And so although the chef is super amazing, like she's been there since day one, which is amazing. So it's like you would never know something had happened because the food is still the same, because the same chef has been there since day one. It's just the person who owns the establishment is no longer Black. So does it matter? Does it matter for that AfroPunk is not owned by Black people anymore? Like AfroPunk is not what it was. Afropunk to me, like me and like another one of my kings, Haas Light, like we literally were on the phone joking about how Afropunk has become gentrified. Like it's yes, it's black expression. Yes, you can see Solange, and yes, you can see Willow Smith, and yes, you can see Spike Lee. But again, that's not how it started. That's not why it started. And someone saw the ability to have it be what it is now, which is great to see something grow. However, I don't necessarily think that Afropunk is really about black expression anymore. I think it's just about artistic expression in general. And of course, black people are always the forefront of that. But at the same time, again, who's profiting off of our culture? And so even when something is black owned, do the black owners have sort of this responsibility to show us in the best light, and I think that, it's a fine line between telling an honest story and like sort of over exaggerating it. Maybe that makes sense. So Insecure, like I freaking love Issa Rae. Like she will never do any wrong in my like. I love Issa Rae. I love her fashion. I love like her style in Insecure is my whole life. Like I love everything she wears. I love everything she does. And but this week it was another episode of her being a hoe. So I'm like, damn, she gonna be a hoe all season? Like, was the name of this season hella hoish? Like, come on. Like I get it, but at the same time, it's like, look, when you continuously and I'm not saying that it's wrong, because at the end of the day, there are black women who the discussions that they're having, the topics that they're touching on are very much a real thing. I just think that because this season is only a certain amount of episodes, I was like, okay, Issa could be a hoe or whatever, but I'm wondering that maybe another episode is not over yet, so let's see. I'm hoping that Issa will like sort of at this point, now that if y'all didn't see this week's episode, spoiler alert, she decides to give head, and he came in her face, and she's all mad, and whatever. It's like, yo, crap. He said you about to make me come. Move away if you don't want to come in your face. So anyway, now that she has, in her body, in her space, she feels a certain level of embarrassment. Will she now switch it up? Because it's like, yo, the whole episode she's getting turned down. Dudes are not making themselves available to her. She even has a dude that actually likes her and is like, look, I like you, that we could do this, you do look good, but let's just go to dinner because I want to talk to you. Like, what's up? Like, why are you throwing yourself at me? And so I like that they're showing how women feel like if you don't want them, then they're no longer valuable, and I think that's a huge thing. It's just now I'm like, all right, now she got embarrassed. Is the next 2 episodes gonna be about like her waking up to her own destruction, where she's the one doing this to herself, and there's only so much of yourself that you can give before you realize it's you, it's not them, so I think that we have to be mindful of the narrative, and I think that's something that I'm happy to begin working on. Like, I'm actually happy that I can even make these videos in a way that I can share my perspective, which is another perspective, and you can do the same thing no matter what your creative expression is. And that's what I think we do as Black people. We use our expression to share real parts of ourselves. It's not just a money-making thing, because quite honestly, we're just happy to make this shit in the first place. I think that's why a lot of Black artists are not necessarily where they want to be financially, and they're okay with that because they find comfort in the fact that, I just get to create, which is a blessing in itself. And so for those who can now sort of what I'm like been calling creative entrepreneurs, like now that you can, or if you are able to use your creativity in a way to pay your bills and manage your lifestyle, that's the golden ticket. You know, for us as Black people, I don't really know how important that is for other people, but I think that if you're living in if you are creative, um, in whatever way that means for you, to be able to live that on a daily basis and to be around creative people, it really makes life worth living. You know, like all of a sudden the systematic oppression of the matrix and it's there, it exists, we're aware of it, but at the same time we find great strength in being able to express. And so I feel like when we're letting other people, other entities profit off of that, we're sort of allowing ourselves to be the slave that's dancing in the middle for the slave master. Like, at the end of the day, we have to take ownership of our creations. That's what the problem has been. We don't own what we are creating. So people like Jay-Z, people like Michael Jackson, people like Prince, like Whitney Houston, like a lot of people have been expressing to us that we have to own our creative expression. That's what this is about. And so a lot of times, you know, people want to do, you know, want to find so many other ways to talk about it. And it's just as simple as that. You have to own your creative expression and take pride in the ownership. Don't be so quick to just, you know, sell your stuff unless you have, like, okay, now if you have a business or whatever the case may be, right? A business you started. And you have lists and lists of businesses over here. Someone sees this one business and they're like, yo, I'll give you $1 million for that. And $1 million really is not a lot of money. And if somebody is offering $1 million, that means they know they're going to make way more than $1 million for whatever it is that they're trying to buy off you. But if you're like, okay, if I take this $1 million, I can flip it into these other things that they have no idea even exist in the first place. You go ahead and take them. You can go ahead and have that and whatever, because I'm about to do this over here. That's something totally different. That's a strategic business move. But if you only have your one thing and your one thing has not popped off and you feel like, yo, $1 million will actually help my financial situation, so let me go ahead and take this $1 million for my own whatever, and then you give them that thing, that's where I'm like, you can't do that. You have to have patience and perseverance and the discipline enough to really allow your things to flourish, you know? Like, I don't remember who it was. I think it may have been Nas. I think it was Nas. I think it was the day I was watching a bunch of Nas interviews. I don't know. But he had said something like it really took him like 10 years or more to really reach the level that he wanted to reach. And it changed my whole perspective of everything that I'm doing. I'm like, look, where you see me at right now, this video and this time has only been a year and a month and some change since I had, like, 1 year and like 3 weeks since I have quit my job, you know. So I haven't even been doing this, like, manifesting a solid idea for 5 years. I haven't even been doing that yet. So of course I'm not ecstatic about where I am on a financial level. I'm not even ecstatic about the quality of things that I'm putting out, but I know that I have to start somewhere, you know. And I think that, you know, once you start, then you learn and you grow and you figure out ways to improve, and it's like launch and learn. It's like one of my favorite phrases. Launch and learn is really just go ahead and do it. Stop trying to make it perfect. Go ahead and push it out. Go ahead and do it. And you're going to learn as you continue to go. Like, that's just how things flow. And so once you're doing that particular thing for a year, you will, like, I've learned a lot in 1 year. So imagine how much I'm going to learn in 2 years or in 3 years or in 10 years, you know, like, but we are so used to instant gratification that we expect instant gratification that we haven't learned how to maintain our discipline, because first of all, as Black people, we already know we're popping at everything, and we just feel like, you know, we should be at a certain place in our lives. I blame social media. I always blame social media for everything. It was so funny in this episode of Insecure. They were like, you can't blame the Black church for everything. And, like, I was laughing because I'm like, I feel like I blame social media for everything. But I really do blame social media for this idea that we should be in a certain place in our life at a certain time, because you're watching everybody else who you went to high school with, who you went to college with, and whatever. But it's like, look, at the same time, those people have a whole other life on the other side of their phone that they haven't even discussed or put out. So, you know, be patient with the process so that you can actually manifest something that you can be proud of, and don't. And other people are going to love it. People are going to love it. People are going to want to be a part of it. But maintain your integrity and really, like, identify why you started in the first place. You know, so for me, like, a lot of what I started was out of true rebellion of the same system that told me I couldn't have these things as a Black woman. Like, that's just what it was. Like, I was in the workplace doing a job that I genuinely loved, being bashed for, like, wanting to, like, make sure that Black History Month was popping. It's like, hold up, y'all not even acknowledging Black History Month. So why am I being targeted or whatever for wanting to acknowledge Black History Month? It's February. That's what, like, it's not even like I'm trying to say make it 365 days a year, which it should be. I'm just saying it's Black History Month. What are we doing for Black History Month? And that conversation, you know, I got backlash for. Or if my Black and brown students are being, you know, called nigger and then telling, you know, all these things are happening, why wouldn't I want to speak out on something like that? But that caused a lot of backlash to me. So I still want to do what I do. I love what I do, but I know that I cannot do it in that particular environment. And that's what, like, really started my whole journey as an entrepreneur in the first place. And it really forced my creativity, because I wasn't even considering myself a creative 2-3 years ago. I was not. And so to be in a space where, like, you see this is my artwork, this is my photography, that's my artwork, you know, so to be in a space where, you know, a space and time where I can live according to my own rules, that's something that I had to maintain my discipline and integrity and do. And that to me is what true rebellion is. And if we continue to allow other people into our spaces that are supposed to be about sacred expression and creativity, how are we ever going to prosper as a people? Like, I'm not saying to hate other cultures or that other people can't be involved. I'm saying, like, we're not even at a space where we can maintain something for longer than a year, and we're already letting people into it, where there are companies, there are family-owned businesses that have been around since 1800s that still have not let anyone into the family circle. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with it. Every other culture does it except for us. It doesn't make sense to me. So I feel like we need to shift our thinking and shift our priorities and make us more of, like, a top priority that does this is a non-negotiable. When we think about relationships and things like that, make ownership of Black expression a non-negotiable. Like, that's something that's what everybody's making money off of, y'all. It's our energy, it's our expression, it's our ability to create. That's what everybody is making money off of except for us. So that's all I have for today. That's literally my rant. I love y'all so much. Oh, my t-shirt is about WhatsUpAfrican. So yeah, check out WhatsUpAfrican. I love them so much. Ron Green is the homie. And my tattoos, I don't know if y'all been noticing, if y'all are into tattoos, y'all need to check out, her name is Candyce. I'll put her info on the video so y'all can, like, you know, check her out. She's a Black woman. So, you know, like, support Black businesses when you can. Like, it's not that difficult, guys. I love you so much. Stay woke about these streets. And look, maintain your creative integrity. I love you so much. We are in Amy Rue's in Harlem celebrating this goddess's birthday.
This is how long white people have been on the planet. 6,103 years. But of this cycle, our cycle is 15,000. But not our total history, it's just our cycle.
Okay.
But this cycle, it's like the total is like 78 trillion years. But this cycle is 25,000 years. Wow. So now we're in the 15,103 years of the 25,000 year cycle.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so.
Yes, ma'am.